Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 10th, and this is Michigan Mornings from Ave Maria Radio and the Ave Maria Radio app. I'm Matthew Handley. Dr. Matthew Bunson explains the excommunication of Archbishop Vigano in a few minutes, but first, your local weather and this news. It is now up to 12 men and women on the jury to decide if Michael Jackson Bolanos is guilty of killing a Detroit synagogue president. He has been on trial for nearly a month, and closing arguments were heard yesterday, with this said by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office.
She wakes up to this masked man inside her home in the middle of the night, and something happened. Something happened, and he decided to subdue her with an outburst of violence.
Defense attorney Brian Brown says there is enough doubt that Samantha Woll's ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Herbertsman, could have killed her instead of his client. Herbertsman got immunity from prosecutors and says he had a panic attack and thinks he killed her, but cannot remember it. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is continuing to say she is not going to run for president this year if President Biden withdraws from the race. Whitmer was asked again yesterday about her intentions for this fall.
I can tell you that unequivocally, and I've made a commitment to serve out my term as governor, and I am going to keep that commitment.
She was also asked if she is confident in the abilities of President Biden.
I am. Joe Biden has delivered for this country. I think he's got a lot of work to do. Without question, we got a lot of work to do in Michigan and a handful of other states.
She is campaigning for Biden and says he has her full support. Whitmer's book, True Gretch, was also released yesterday. Communities in Metro Detroit are preparing for possible floods. As many as 3 inches of rain are in the forecast today as the remnants of Hurricane Beryl move through the state.
The part I dread is my wife crying and being upset that she's tired of this stuff. She wants to move, you know. But in our age, I really don't want to move, you know. It's a nice neighborhood.
That was Mike Shank of Dearborn Heights, who is preparing the best for the flood as he swept out storm drains in the road. I'll have your full forecast in a few minutes. The state is pulling back its incentives for the Ford EV battery park under construction in Marshall. The automaker cut its funding on the factory in November, and the state followed that lead. Both say the turbulent electrical vehicle market is to blame. The state cut its proposed $825 million in tax cuts to nearly $225 million and are removing $69 million from a public grant for the project. And the Saginaw County Animal Shelter is urgently asking for assistance, saying it is completely full. The shelter is holding 117 dogs in its facility, which was designed for only 80. A statement from the shelter says they have had a massive influx of stray, injured, abused, and abandoned animals, and is encouraging people to consider adopting. You're listening to Michigan Mornings from Ave Maria Radio and the Ave Maria Radio app. Your weather's coming up next. Now this.
This is Franciscan Father Greg Friedman for the Catholic Communication Campaign with a message about faithful citizenship. Our political debates are sometimes more like a war of words. Exchanges on talk radio and in blogs are often vicious and not always truthful. The gospel challenges us to confront contemporary issues in the light of gospel truth and charity. The U.S. bishops are calling for civility in politics. Do your part to bring Christian charity to the public arena. Go to faithfulcitizenship.org.
We have a flood watch in effect that ends at 8 p.m. tonight as the remnants of Hurricane Beryl enter the area. We could have new rainfall in the Motor City of up to 2 inches. Our high today will be 77. Tonight, the rain continues before tapering off around 2 a.m. Our low will dip to 64. Tomorrow will be nice. We'll have mostly sunny skies and temperatures around 80, and that sets us up for a nice weekend. Friday and Saturday will be sunny with highs in the mid to upper 80s. We have a flood watch in effect that ends at 8 p.m. tonight as the remnants of Hurricane Beryl enter the area. We could have new rainfall in the Saginaw Valley of up to an inch. Our high today will be 67. Tonight, the rain continues and tapers off around 2 a.m. Our low will reach 63. Thursday will be nice with mostly sunny skies and highs around 78, and that sets us up for a nice weekend. Friday and Saturday will be mostly sunny with highs in the mid to upper 80s. Last week, Archbishop Vigano was convicted of the canonical crime of schism. Dr. Matthew Bunson from EWTN News joined Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo.
What we saw was a declaration on the part of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, officially confirming what had been assumed for a while, that on the basis of what's called an extrajudicial penal process, in other words, a trial, he was found to be guilty of the canonical crime. So we have to stress that it's a canonical crime, not a civil one. It's called a delict of schism. In other words, he is refusing to submit to the Pope or the communion of the Church, and is, as a result of that, automatically excommunicated. And it was made public, and it was up to the Archbishop to respond, which he did via social media, which has been one of his primary avenues for making himself known, essentially rejecting the findings. And to go back to a statement he made a couple of weeks ago when all of this was first made public, this is happening, he basically sees this as a badge of honor in the degree to which he's now officially rejecting Pope Francis and calling Pope Francis a heretic.
We know when the story about McCarrick broke back in 2018, he wrote a very, very long, detailed letter and put it out there, really raising questions about who knew what when, and saying that there were people who were aware who didn't come forward. And so in many cases, people looked to him. Then he seemed to take a turn where not only did he not make much sense, but really going against the leadership of the Church, and then even rejecting Vatican II. Where did that come from?
Well, part of that, I think, stems from his overall unhappiness, and there are some who are unhappy, who often end up in a very similar place that he's in now, with what they see were the results of the Second Vatican Council. You and I have talked over the years that certainly in different corners of the Church, the interpretation or implementation of the Council has been fraught with serious problems. But you cannot call into question the enactments and the functioning of an ecumenical council, which was legally and duly convoked by Pope John XXIII and brought to conclusion by Pope St. Paul VI.
Catholic Connection is coming up at 8 a.m. here on Ave Maria Radio. I'm Matthew Handley, and that does it for this edition of Michigan Mornings. You can stay connected with me throughout the day on X. I'm at Radio Handley, and Lord willing, I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.